funding for FDIC. That's what I'm saying. I don't know if it's exactly like a fund so much as like a declaration of insurance provisions necessary for every account.
It's actual money that's put in by the member banks. They put the money in. It's a commitment that they make to fund it.
Meaning the other FDIC banks?
Correct. Any member bank of FDIC is paying a fee, and that's where that fund comes from. And in fact, that fund is interest bearing. So they're probably profiting off of this pooled resource that they have that allows them to insure up to.
Sure, I mean they're paying. What you're saying is basically like a line item of an expense.
Correct. Correct. And if you don't want to participate, you don't have to. But what most banks have found is that making the claim that we will insure $250,000 is something that's a selling point to a person that's opening a savings account.
Right. Innovative banking.
Mojo, so Mike in the chat is saying that there still be a federal loan, but it will be capped at 100 or 200K, which is so interesting because Jules, is he still here? No, he's gone. We were in another room like sometime last week. I was talking about like how a lot of people are like scamming through these student loans. Pepe was there, you know, and he's like, this doesn't make sense. I'm like, well, they're doing it. You could go to community college for 8 years and keep getting loans and then taking art classes or whatever, like with no purpose of, you know, building a career, and there was no cap. They would just give you more and more and more loans. So I think from what I'm hearing from Mike, that's what they're doing, which I'm all for it. We don't have, you know, I don't want my tax money to go to like people just fucking scamming, you know, the system and just taking money out and then paying it. But to just completely abolish student loans, I just think that would be very, very wild. I really don't see that ever happening unless we first fix our education system, fix the cost of education, make it affordable, and then we go that route. Otherwise, this is going to be a disaster. In my opinion, though, I would, if we had this system where I couldn't get student loans and I didn't have these government, opportunities, I would still be working in a supermarket today.
Hold on. What if you didn't have the credit worthiness to get a loan?
I don't think that should matter because when people are 18 years old or 20 years old or 25 years old, when people decide to go to school, and what they do is they're actually participating. We, the taxpayer, we are investing in that person to give a return back to the society. Now that person can go become a mechanic, they can do anything, and then.
Yeah, so what you're saying is you favor a policy that mandates that taxpayers fund the education of the people in the country. And again, by definition, what you're describing is that you are a socialist.
So were you a socialist last year when you were like fighting with me that you thought our taxpayers should pay billions of dollars to Ukraine? Because I was against that. I was America first, but you were caring too much about our allies.
Yeah, so I'll make this very clear. I don't know if you've ever heard me talk about this, but I could be a 6-month period talking about this. Matter of fact, I just mentioned it a few minutes ago, is that I'm not in favor of any foreign aid. That doesn't mean that you can't come to the aid of your allies. I think that when a country like Russia invades another country, the whole civilized world should look at that and say, well, what can we do? And what I would have done, rather than just giving them the weapons, is what I would have said is first of all, the taxpayers have paid for this weaponry. What I would have done is I would have said, we are going to, since we're not actively unemployed, we're going to loan these weapons, or maybe it's a lease to own, and you're going to pay for them. And we'll put you on a long payment plan, but I would make Ukraine pay it back. That's what I.
Joe, I got a simple question. Do you really want take advice from Nick's when he wrote, "White folks are so ignorant." Does he understand that the word folk doesn't need an S because it is a plurality of individuals?
Well, I think the other thing that it's interesting is that him referring to people on the stage as white folk. I mean, Nye's not white folk. Adam's not white folk. XG's not white folk.
I'm not
You're
white.
not white. Sarah's not white. The Kiwa's not white. My people were conquered by the Moors, so I'm not white. So, I mean, like, who in the fuck on this stage is even white?
He ran away.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Very interesting. And Kiva doesn't like when I bring up the Moors. He thinks that the raping and the pillaging of the Portuguese people was the God-given right.
I love you because it's funny that like they didn't rape or pillage. I like the recognition that they have saved the people. But,
Does anyone have a link?
It's pretty funny. Damn shit! I tell her, love.
Your voice is so low, Hakima. I
And
can't
it's
hear you.
distorted, Hakima.
It's so bad. That's probably why I do that. It's my ADHD. Like,
No,
I
you
can
did it with
hear you
Roger,
talking,
and we
but I
can
don't
hear him
you
just
talking.
fine.
No, his voice is really bad. But does anybody have a link to this 900-page bill? I'm going to sit down and read it because I can't stand people just saying things that's going to give me heart attacks.
Go to a site called Read the Bill, and it'll read it to you, and you can speed it up. I think that's probably the best way to consume something like this because it's.
I need to read myself. I can't listen.
No, if your ADHD set it the speed at 1.5.
Do you
Because
know
with the
where I
ADHD
find a PDF? My God.
I know. He was telling me you could also find the audio, and I was just saying if you put it at 1.5 with ADHD, it doesn't allow for your brain to get distracted when you're listening.
I'm a fast reader, though.
Okay, there's a link. There's a link. There's a link. Just look in the chat. Just look in the chat.
Thank you.
It's probably above the reading comprehension level of.
I know, but I just said it because I didn't want to hear any more talking.
Well, but you didn't let me finish. I was going to say a graduate of Compton Beauty.
Oh, dude, that 1.5 speed definitely works. I watch a lot of YouTube now, and I tend not to get distracted and switch to the next video.
Yeah.
So if you have ADHD, it definitely helps. I thought it was stupid.
You know, when I had a commute and I was going an hour and a half each way, I would put on. I would go and listen to like a podcast, and I would throw that on. Audiobooks, the same thing, and I flirted with different speeds. 1.5, if it's something that I already kind of know and missing a note here or there would be okay. I could throw it on 1.5, but for me to really digest something, it's 1.25 is where I would listen to it at. But I fucked around, put it up to like 2.0. At a certain point when the voices start sounding like chipmunks and they're going really fast, the only way that I would do that is if I was like listening to like a recap of like, let's say if I missed an episode of like Raw, I watch pro wrestling, and I was listening to people comment on what happened because I don't need to catch every detail. Then I can listen to like.
Yeah, for the most part, what I'll do, like, whenever I'm listening to stuff on YouTube, most of the time it's just fucking political debates or whatever. So for the most part, when I listen there, a lot of them speak like they have an aneurysm, so I have to put them at 2x speed to be able to, like, get your fucking point out. Holy shit, you can't just speak, like, 2 words a minute. But for someone like Destiny, for example, he speaks fast as shit already. So I can just put him on 1.5 or 1.25, and that'll be fine with him.
Yeah, I have a tendency to get distracted or see something down in the next clip, and I'm like, that looks interesting.
Right.
Let's click on that one. And it's like I made it 26 minutes into the 2-hour podcast that I was actually enjoying. Surprisingly enough, I wasn't actually a big fan of Rogan's podcast and him personally. And then I started watching his podcast, and I came across the episode about coyotes, and I was like, who the fuck would watch a 3-hour episode about coyotes? And I was like, you know what, fuck it, there's nothing else to watch. So I just clicked on it, and by the time I got to the end, I was like, oh my god, it was only fucking 3 hours? Like, I need 3 hours more of this shit. It was fucking fascinating.
You know the thing that Rogan does really well is that he's inquisitive, naturally inquisitive, he's relatively intelligent. Like, I don't think he's like, like a super brain, but he's relatively intelligent. He's genuinely curious. So the people that he brings on, he's having conversations that he has questions that he wants the answers to, and then because of that, he still has this relatability to a wide variety of people, especially the way he communicates, the way that he'll find the humor in things. He's willing to ask the tough question. All of those things. I think Rogan is the very best at what he does. The only part that I cringe at is when, people over-index on the importance of his opinions. I think that the real value of what Rogan does is he brings people onto his show that are educated on certain topics, some people not, but he will ask them for their opinions. He will challenge them if something sounds like bullshit. He even has his sidekick right there to pull shit up. If he they do fact checking.
Did you see with Bernie?
In near real time fact checking. It's amazing. Actually, you know what? I would love for somebody that likes to do fact checking to have that be their sole responsibility in these rooms, where when somebody makes a claim, they go and they research it, and then they don't even have to come off mic to say it unless it's really an egregious claim that's not supported by facts. But just put links in the chat to say so and so said this. Here's what I found. I think that would be an excellent addition to this. And I know that you can find things that support any argument, but fact checking, at least putting a source out there, would then put the onus on others to say, oh, that's bullshit. Here's a source that shows that that's bullshit. I think we can get deeper and wider with this stuff if we did some fact checking.
Well, one of the things I was going to say about Rogan and his way that he conducts his conversations is it seems like he asks the questions that you're sitting there thinking at that moment. So like he's relatable in that sense. You're sitting there and you're like, fuck man, like push Bernie on that, because Bernie's like, the Trump administration received $250 million from one super PAC. And Rogan's like, well, how much did he give to Kamala Harris? And like he already had the number. And Bernie's like, oh yeah, it was a lot of money. And he's like, yeah, it was $1.59 between all the super PACs, and like he's like, well, I'm not saying it's a Republican and Democrat thing, but that's one of the things that I love about Trump too, is like you're sitting there screaming at the fucking TV and you're like, because you'd be in jail, like that's exactly what everybody was fucking thinking. She's like, we're glad that you're not president, and he's like, because you'd be in jail. It's exactly what everyone's fucking thinking, like murder bitch, verbally.
So let's dive into this Elon stuff though. So Elon said that if the bill passed, he would start a third party, and he would challenge in the primaries those that voted for it.
They didn't blink an eye, Raj, and they voted for that shit.
So oh, go ahead.
Do you guys think that he's going to carry through on this problem?
I'm gonna give an opinion that most people are probably gonna disagree, and it's just my personal anecdotal, evidence that I have for Elon Musk. I think that everything that drives him is his fucking ludicrous ideal of getting to Mars and further expanding out into colonies and all this kind of shit and stuff. And that's why he has Tesla open source. I genuinely don't think his autistic rapid ass really gives a fuck about the money. It's all about furthering his fucking idea. And I think when Trump comes out and says that they're going to cut $10,000, for government tax breaks or subsidies, whatever, for electrified cars and stuff, I think that in Elon's mind that hits at him, because he did not over necessarily the money or the capital, but the ideal that it's not going to be able to further his progress and his exploration of space. And I think that's what solely drives that fucking idiot, and unfortunately to his detriment at times. I mean, I have an autistic son who's high functioning, has Asperger's, and he will... Everything revolves around Transformers and Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers, and he doesn't give a fuck about anything else. I mean, you could be like, hey, let's watch this, and he just fucking crashes out. all he wants to watch all day, every day is those 3 shows. Yeah, I think Elon's kind of driven that.
My question was, do you think he's going to carry through with his promise and fund?
I'm sorry. I think if it is advantageous for him and his ideas, then yeah, I think he will. I don't think it'll go anywhere. I hope it.
Well, I hope it does, because all he's saying is that he wants Republicans that run for Congress to be fiscally conservative, and he's willing to support those that truly mean it. That means the re-election campaigns of people like Chip Roy and Rand Paul and Thomas Massey. I would imagine he'll probably get some funding behind Justin Amash if he decides to run again. I think these are all positive things in terms of fiscal conservatism. That doesn't necessarily mean I agree in lockstep with everything that some of these candidates do.
See, whilst I agree with what you're saying, the ideal of a third party scares me a little bit, because it leaves open the option for a fourth party, and the fourth party would be fucking some hardcore socialists, borderlining, if not communist fucking group. And
but hold on, but
I think there's enough dumbasses to vote for that.
Well, I think that's actually a good thing, though, because my hope would be that we would have. I hope the Democrats can splinter as well, and have the progressives separate from the liberals. I know a lot of people's heads explode when I say that liberals and progressives are not the same thing.
Yeah, they're different.
They're much different. And if the liberals and the progressives had their own parties, then we would see, like what people really believe in. And by the way, if the progressives were to, factionalize and have a candidate out there that draws some of those liberal voters into the progressive camp, I think that only makes it easier for somebody that's more sound principle on the opposite side of the spectrum to be able to win. And so I would ideally like to see 4 parties where we can have, hardcore left, hardcore right, middle left, middle right. And I think if we had that, even if that meant that there becomes a couple of members of Congress or the Senate that represent the fringes, I think what happens is we drive people back to the, to where you could actually have conversations, which is center left. And
I mean, moderate Democrats, moderate Republicans, Nazis, and commies.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I was going to mention, Mojo, is, I understand what you're saying. It's like when I hear Ben Shapiro say that, taxation is theft. And I'm like, I get what you're saying. I agree with the sentiment. But at the same time, I don't believe in society, and I don't believe in this generation and the generation that's coming after this to actually step up and go, hey, there's a fucking pothole in the road. We should fix that. No. Let's just buy fucking rims and PS5s and PS6s. And, I mean, we've seen this with the stimulus shit where the majority of people did.
Just to interrupt real quick, it's actually worse than what you're saying, because not only do they ignore the potholes, what they do is when there's a small group of people that say, God, these potholes have gotten out of control. In Oakland, they have a group of people that if you tell them where the potholes are at, they'll go in the still of the night and drop all of the material in the street that's necessary to pave the roads. And then another group of people will follow that Reddit thread, and they will actually go fix the pothole. So you have some people that are providing the material and others that are doing the labor. And the city of Oakland, the state of California, charge those people for fixing potholes.
No, I understand what you're saying, but do you think overall across the entire United States, the ideal of like charities and people donating, I think my grandfather's generation would all look at each other and go, hey, we should fucking fix this shit. I don't believe in the fucking nicks of the fucking our society that are actually going to fucking step up. And I know that they don't actually contribute enough to even matter, but I think there's just so many fucking idiots in this world that I don't have any real genuine faith in society anymore.
And I think that's reasonable for you to doubt the generations, but If you look through human history, there's periods of time, and I won't go with the whole cliche about bad times leads to strong people, and strong people lead to good, strong men lead to good times. But there are cycles where things are worse, and there's cycles when things are better. I think that just a study of history says that we're not just in a complete downward spiral. There will be good times again. Which generation leads to that? I don't know, but I believe in that. The other thing I would add to that is that I think the way to get there is to not completely gut the institutions that we have today that are failing. I think that's gonna happen.
Restructure.
But we have to first build parallel institutions to be able to allow people to say, wow, that works and that doesn't. For example, when I say security should be privatized, I didn't just come to that opinion by saying that, hey, I think that that's a good theory. I looked at what happened when the Galveston folks in the 1970s were able to exploit a then loophole that's been closed since, to be able to move their money and invest it privately from Social Security and then 10x the return that everybody else was getting on Social Security. So I can actually look at a parallel plan, and I can provide the evidence that privatization of Social Security led to better outcomes.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like social safety nets, I kind of pulled on both directions. I see the example of my grandmother and stuff like that who couldn't afford food, and if people did come in and help her and stuff like that, but the government itself was only offering like a couple $100 a month and shit to like help her out financially because she was disabled. But in the same breath, when I'm in my 20s and I'm at the crab stop on MLK in Daytona Beach, Florida, and I go in there and a girl's paying for $500 worth of fucking crabs for a party on her SNAP card, and then paying $50, $60 extra to have them cooked, the raw crabs. And I see that type of shit, and I'm like, this bitch is getting fucking $1,000 a month for food stamps, but my grandmother can't even get any fucking assistance because she doesn't have 17 fucking kids like this lady. I mean, it just sucks. I mean, there is people in need that actually need the shit. And, for the people that are disabled and elderly and shit like that, if we want to take care of them through charitable donations, and even if you want to consider, something like SNAP as a charitable thing, to take care of the people that can't take care of themselves. But then you just have other motherfuckers that just go around and get fucking $1,000 a month or $2,000 a month on SNAP and just fucking, they're physically able, and the same lady that bought $500 for the fucking crabs was in a fucking late 90s, early 2000s fucking Buick on fucking 22s with like 10,000 watts bumping in the fucking trunk, and she's in there paying for fucking crabs and shit.
So let me ask you a question, Rich, because if you look at large sums of money that come out of seniors' accounts, when their grandchildren fuck up and have to be bailed out, do you think that there should be a certain government limit as to how much financial abuse the elderly people should be able to sustain due to their younger knuckleheaded children?
Wait,
because that was kind of the point that I was getting at. Like, you don't know how many times I see on a daily basis where people know that
I didn't know if you were projecting.
No. I paid out of pocket. Thank you very much. So it was the other way around. I was supporting my mom, not the other way around. So if you look at some of the people that I deal with on a regular basis, they see that their parents have $1.5 million house, but the parents aren't able to age in place because they need a certain amount of care. So what they'll do is they'll try to cut corners, right, to avoid having to sell that house because the kids otherwise want to benefit off of that house and the fruit of their parents' hard work to enjoy their money after they're gone, versus a person who's able to benefit from their own sold house to be able to go into a facility where they're able to get dignity and age in place. I think there's a bigger conversation. Like, as people have this colloquial conversation from 2020 about generational wealth, I think that people took away the wrong message. Generational wealth doesn't mean that your parents should have to work themselves into a damn near an early grave, and when they're at the very end of it, they should sacrifice their well-being and their quality of life so that you can go and buy your child a Tesla when you send them off to college as an adult. That to me is just, I mean, I don't know why people don't see what's happening.
That did feel like projection.
So if you're appointed as a conservator and you know that there are assets that the person that you're supposed to be caring for has that are there to work for the benefit of the person that you're supposed to be taking care of, but then you choose not to go through those resources because you know on the back end that you're going to inherit it, you don't think that that's elderly abuse? And you don't think that that puts a very unfair burden on American taxpayers?
Wait, let me ask you a question. Did these people not have food to eat? Or are you just talking about, well, they couldn't get into the one with the golf course, so they just got into a regular nursing home?
There are no assisted living facilities in California that have their own golf course.
I
Let's
was
get
being
that off the table
facetious.
right
Didn't mean
there. So
facetious.
no, but it's a very extreme example, and I don't think that people understand, Rich, how big of a problem it is.
Okay,
You have a bunch
spas.
of people who are moving money around, who are abusing laws, and otherwise squandering their parents' resources and ignoring their quality of life so that they can contribute to this effort of maintaining and preserving generational wealth. They're cheating. So it's not like they're actually growing or continuing the business of their said parent to be able to scale their own generational wealth. They're basically preserving what little their parents left behind that really should be speaking to their quality of life, and they're getting second tier options for their parents so that they can monetize on the back end. You don't think that that's elderly abuse?
Yes, I would just like to
Okay,
say.
and that's my
I
point.
would
And
just
I
like
don't
to
think-
say that it's very nice to peer into the other side of the world. Good.
No, I think it's happening a lot more than people like to admit to, and it is very much so a real problem, and it is very much so elderly abuse.
I mean, I would agree with you because I'm one of these people that believes in living, below your means.
What do the elderly do anyway, other than just sit there?
They got a Tesla or they got a Honda Accord instead of a Tesla.
Some of them still actually work XG. Because, like, I know we talk about, oh, this is a burden to the taxpayer, this is a burden to the country. On a mass scale, aren't elderly people just kind of burdens? No, they're not. They
I'll be
pay the
back
majority of the
yes.
tax base. Like, what are you talking about? If it's anybody who should be paid reparations in America, it should be the elderly. For what? For them to die in like 5 years and then have all that shit go to the next generation? Well, it was a lot of that said elderly that, suited up and booted up so that, you can talk trash on the internet. Preserve your freedom. So you don't think that they should be compensated for that? No. I mean, they got what they wanted, was the freedom out of it. Congrats. Appreciate them. Okay, so why don't they have access to their hard-earned equity because you didn't decide to have children in a responsible manner and your kids need a college fund? That's your problem. I agree. And they made it their problem by letting it go.
All I gotta say is thank God for Donald Trump because Social Security is, no tax. What the fuck? Fuck yeah.
Look at how many Democrats allow that to be a problem. It took one orange man to say the quiet part out loud.
That's why I say balls of steel. That's what the guy has. He's got big fucking balls, big cojones, motherfuckers.
Balls of steel, the color of orange peel. Balls of steel that you had to fake an assassination attempt.
What? You sound like a true Democrat. Oh my God.
Yeah, and you look like a true Republican. You got that from his cartoon? Fourth of July, what are you guys doing tomorrow? Working. As am I. Oh, see, we have so much more in common than you think, XG. I think we just both are employed. I don't think there's that much in common, Adams. I'm not gonna lie. No, but there's a whole lifestyle and ideology behind that. That's fair.
Holy shit, a Democrat that works.
Oh my God, white guy, that was so white of you to say. Where did everyone go?
They didn't like to hear the truth.
What did you do, Adams? What did you do again?
I'm reminding them of how much they're milking their parents.
Oh boy. Hakima, did you see that? Did you see I was saying that bill is gonna be trash, but then did you see how it turned out?
You weren't defending shit, Sarah. You just said you did. You said like 20 minutes ago you didn't know what the fuck was in the bill. How would you defend something you don't know?
Why don't you just shut the fuck up?
Hey, Sarah,
Yeah,
the bill
exactly.
still is trash. The bill still is trash, Sarah.
No, but
Let
Hakima.
me tell you why. About your concern, the privatization. It's not all going strictly privatization, but they laid the groundwork. And by 2029, it will be, if they continue on this path, it will be total privatization by 2029. So it's not total right now, but that's their goal.
Privatization of what?
I'll tell you, Adams. Hold on.
That's a good
Hakima,
thing.
but did you see Hakima? Did you see how it was a lie? It wasn't that they are completely making it private.
It's not a lie. That's what they work. That's what they're moving at.
It's not. Mike said there's 100,000 to 200,000 staff on it.
Hakima,
Just
listen.
because Mike said that, I don't mean that's the truth. Though. I'm reading something entirely different than that.
Hakima, how do you think that I know so many strippers in Southern California? Right? Because I went to school with a lot of them. Okay? It used to be something that if you didn't have the money or you weren't approved for that loan, you went and you stripped. That's just what it is. You got to use what you got to get what you want. Okay? So at the end of the day, why is it okay for the same generation where people are selling pussy on OnlyFans? Okay? And you mean to tell me that this generation has no options? They don't even have to get all the way naked. They can just take pictures of their feet, okay, and buy themselves a new Tesla. I'm sorry. The party is over, Hakima. I don't want to be paying any more for these knuckleheaded kids to spend $100,000 to get a liberal studies degree to work at Starbucks. I'm sorry.
It's pretty messed up that you're promoting prostitution when they just.
I said promoting stripping. There's nothing wrong with stripping.
You know what it leads to, and I just. You're promoting prostitution. They just.
Stripping is half prostitution, dude.
That's pretty bad.
It's not. Well, then don't work the knock shift, okay? Strip.
I've been to Premier Club.
Go home with your tips when the sun goes down, okay? You know what happens in the street after the lights go out. So again, just to say that, listen, there are some of the most respected women on Park Avenue that only met their husbands because they were strippers, okay? So I find nothing wrong with stripping. Now, hoeing, that's a whole nother thing. Just because you're a stripper don't make you a hoe. Just because you're a hoe doesn't make you being a quality stripper.
I'll put it this way. I just find it funny.
You got some lazy strippers out there. That's why you have bitches sucking dick in the champagne room. The bitches who know how to dance and who look good, they're making money and they're not sucking dick. Like, what are we talking about?
If we can equate loans to socialism, but we can't equate prostitution to stripping, okay, I got you.
There's not prostitution. There's no sex involved.
Exactly, there's no socialism, there's no redistribution of wealth going on either. So I mean, I'm saying like for the same people that can look at loans and be like, that's socialism, for you to be able to look at to look at stripping and be like, that's not prostitution, I just find it weird how the analogies can get drawn so far apart in some places, and then when it's super close right next to each other, it's all of a sudden giant distinctive lie.
Great point, thanks, G.
Yeah, it's funny because I had a girl once explain it all to me, and because I thought it was prostitution too. You know, I was on the Hakima side of things, and she explained to me, no, it's not, because we're not having sex. You know, so anyways, it just I was dumbfounded.
It's the same fucking logic as Mormons. We didn't fuck, she just bounced all the time.
First of all, somebody's saying to do a running pivot over up onto the pole, spread your legs, okay, and shake that ass. What the hell does that have to do with fucking? Can somebody explain that to me? What does that have to do with fucking? Shit, you got Laker girls that are doing the same damn thing in outfits and pom-poms, and you call them cheerleaders.
That's the legal name.
stripping's legal too.
Never thought I'd see the day Adams be pro sex work.
How is it sex work with no sex?
I don't know, maybe sexual activities. Last time I checked, I don't think that lap dancing is necessarily non-sexual.
Because it's not.
So giving someone a lap dance isn't sexual.
Come on, Adam, stop. You know,
Adams,
No, it's not.
bro, please, man. Okay, so Adams, if I were to give a random person a lap dance right now, I wouldn't get accused of sexual harassment?
It depends on how you look at it.
Oh my fucking god, Adams, bro.
Upside down, straight forward,
Only-
backwards. Okay.
Only if you're working with them, you know.
We can find how all these music artists are. So WAP is not is WAP sexual? By Cardi B, is that sexual, Adams? Or no? Because no sex was involved.
You can tap your coworker's shoulder and that can be sexual harassment.
Well, no, but Cardi B and Megan, those are sex workers.
Okay,
what are you talking about?
Okay, now you lost me.
Like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Adam, last time I checked, y'all bashed Megan Thee Stallion and Kamala Harris for the sexual dancing. So now that's sexual.
Right.
It's not fucking. Oh, stripping is not sexual. Please fucking stop it. Stop it, Adam.
It's not.
Adams, I don't know why you're choosing to die on this hill, bro.
So in other words, like, why do you go to a strip club? You go to a strip club because you want your dick sucked, or you want your dick to be hard, right? So.
I go to the strip club to meet people. I'm telling you, I don't know what y'all are talking about. They got some good chicken wings up in there. I go in there to meet people. Okay, I go in there to.
That's how you know somebody go too much, when they say, I go because the food is good.
And why do you think my sales numbers are where they are?
You know what,
Okay,
that's
so
fair,
at the end
that's
of the
fair.
day, thank you. There's a lot of business done on the strip club, okay, and on the golf course. So like I said, going to the strip club has nothing to necessarily do with sex.
Then why not just go to a club?
That is a club.
One without the word strip in front of it.
No, he's talking about a nightclub.
Right. It's just a club where some of the patrons just don't wear clothes. Like, what are you talking about? Shit, I'm a conservative, not a prude. Like, y'all make it sound like I'm walking around in a penguin nun suit or some shit, shaking my finger saying, you're all going to hell!
Well, kinda.
Hey,
No.
Adam, is twerking sexual? Is that sexual, Adam?
Twerking is demonic.
Why is it demonic? It's demonic because of what? Because it's too sexual? What is it? Let me know.
No, it's demonic because they're gyrating all over the place for no reason. They must be possessed by the devil.
So at least demonic. So at least demonic.
No, but at least the strippers are coordinated, right? You can tell that the strippers are in control over their movements, okay? They know they need to make that money, they shaking that ass, okay? But somebody who's twerking, you just hearing music and you letting the devil take them.
No, but if somebody's twerking, especially like at a public place, that might be like their little mating call. Get somebody to come over. So I mean, they got a purpose in what they doing too. They coordinated, just not with someone else.
Well, they need to twerk in front of the church, okay? And let the Lord come in. That's exactly what they need to do. They need to make a mating call for the Lord.
Adams is down on a crazy hill right now. We'll let you down there.
Yeah, we'll let you have that take, Adam. Now, next room that I'm in, and I hear some shit about sexual deviancy or some shit, I'm gonna bring up the point about how you don't think that giving lap dances or strip clubs are sexual in any way whatsoever.
XG, you're not
Be
putting.
taking mental notes.
Fatima knows I've worked at a strip club. Like, this is nothing new. Like, this is absolutely nothing new.
No, it's not about you having worked there, it's about you saying that it's not sexual.
No, I did work there and it wasn't about sex. I needed the money. So again, just because somebody's up in the strip club doesn't mean it has anything to do with sex.
Okay, so you're telling me that the majority percentage of people that come as patrons to a strip club aren't there for something sexual?
Yes.
Come on, Adam, you full of shit.
Like, I have a lot of women that just like to go just to be there with their men. Like, what are you talking about?
That's not the most people, though.
That's definitely not most people.
That's actually most people.
Nah. Definitely not.
I don't know. I mean, I've been to a couple, but I've never seen it be a 50-50 split or even a 60-40 split of men to women. It's always been like damn near 85-15.
I see more couples coming into strip clubs than the single men by themselves.
I see more couples in the nightclubs. The